And here we go. So, as we'll see, the first stage of Celeste is just a prologue, which is kind of like a tutorial. It teaches you the mechanics of the game. And the simplest, Celeste is really, in a way, it has really simple controls, but it's really hard to master, and you use the controls in different ways. So the first couple of things you'll see is you can jump and you can climb. That's two of the three main things that you can do in this game. And as you can see, Sonic is jumping along that bridge that's collapsing under him. That allows him to move a little bit faster than you would be if you were just running normally. And they're now finishing up prologue, and they're talking to that little bird over there. And that bird tells them how to dash. And dashing is really the most important thing you can do in this game, because there are so many different things that you do with it in order to move faster in different ways. So as you can see, when you've used your dash, Madeline's hair turns blue, and that means that you don't have your dash left, and you have to touch the ground in order to get it back. So they're now going through the second stage of the game, well, the first real stage, which is City. And the two main things you have to notice about City is that you have those moving blocks that you saw on Sonic's screen right there, and those just propel you directly in the way that they move whenever you touch them. And you'll also notice these green orb things. Those are in every level, but what they do is they basically just give you another dash if you're in midair, so kind of work as a refresh. And you can see coming up near the end of the level. We also see these strawberries everywhere, but they don't really matter for speedrunners because we just want to move fast and not care about collectibles. Don't really do anything in the game, don't help you out at all, but they're nice if you want to get collectibles. There are different runs of the game that use the berries, such as like all red berries and 100%, but this is just an any percent tournament, so we want to get through the game as fast as we can and not take time to do such things. And Sonic has just finished the level, and Terra coming up close behind. And now they'll be moving on to the second stage of the game, which is Old Site. And now the first thing you'll notice when you get into Old Site is there will be these kind of spacey blocks, and what those do is you'll see it in 20-30 seconds when Sonic gets in the part of the level. They have a really unique way of working that is revisited later in the game, but it's really interesting. So what you can do with them is you just dash and your momentum carries through them. So you're able to do what Sonic's doing on the screen. Now, another interesting about them is that you can actually jump out of them at the end of the block, and that allows you to create more momentum going forward, and you still get your dash. So it's really hard to not do it in a lot of cases. It's actually a mechanic that the game teaches you, but not until you get to the B-sides, which are something that, again, you don't do in any percent because you're just trying to get through the game as fast as possible. And you'll also notice there is a little purple Battling chasing both of the runners. And that's Battling, a character that we'll see a lot more of in the game. And she's a part of you, which I don't want to get into because spoilers of the game for anyone that hasn't seen it. But all you need to know is that she follows 3 seconds behind where any of the runners have gone, and if you hit her, you die and get sent back to the beginning of the level. And now Sonic is coming up near the end of the green section, and Terra is following close behind. And now the world kind of opens up into more of a just open plain where you'll see a lot of hyper dashing and wave dashing, which are two mechanics that are you use the dash in combinations of jumping and the dash in order to move a lot faster than you normally would by holding down and right and dashing and jumping at the same time, you're able to hyper dash. And wave dashing is basically the exact same thing, except you do it when you're in the air, kind of like the Super Smash Bros. I think. And Sonic finishes the Awake section of World Sight and gets through. Time is 4:25 right now, which is pretty decent. And now he's moving on to the Resort, which is the third level in the game. And you'll immediately see these dust creatures, the black and red creatures that are moving around your screen. And dust creatures allows for some really interesting things in the game because they move back and forth along a like certain axis. So they allow for cycles, which makes it so there's a really huge difference between skilled players in the game and amateur players in the game, because a skilled player will be able to get a faster cycle on pretty much every screen than an amateur player, and that really adds up over the course of the entire level. You also see the way that Terra's going. He gets a strawberry, and there's no real reason for that other than the way that it goes along the fastest route, but the community has kind of dubbed those swag berries, as you don't need to get them, but you get them anyways. And they're just moving along this first section. And you saw on Terra's screen right there, there's a character, and that is Oshiro, a character who runs this hotel, but the hotel's closed down in front of these dust creatures, but he kind of refuses to give it up. And that leads to some really interesting things later in the level. You also see on Sonic's screen, he's getting these switches, which turn purple when you get them. When you get all of them, it opens up the door. It just kind of works as keys to unlock doors. And now Sonic's coming into this big room that is known as the Huge Mess Room. And you'll see there's 3 different types of blocks. There's books, towels, and I forget what the last one is, but something that's brown. But you go along 3 different routes, and each time you do it, it gets rid of that certain type of block. And you're kind of helping Oshiro clean up his hotel because of the huge mess that it's in. No problem. And there's no specific way that you have to go in order to do it, but it's easiest to do the vine first. And Sonic just did a spike jump. The spikes in this game are actually, they have really weird hitboxes, where he's not actually jumping off the spike, he's jumping off the wall behind the spike. Because if you touch a spike, but you're moving away from it, it doesn't actually hurt you. So runners will use that to do some really weird tricks that don't look like they should be possible, but are really just part of this game. And Terra finishing the bottom part of the weakness. Not too far behind Sonic. And Sonic finishing the second. Now you notice the room is already much more cleared out. We only have the purple towels now. And this character that you see on the right is the first appearance in the run of Leo, a character that we'll be getting a lot more familiar with in the stage of this game. He's a really cool character. It's funny, there's actually a secret Easter egg in the game where he gives you his Instafix in a part of the game, and if you go search that account on Instagram, he actually has an Instagram account run by the developers of the game. It's a really interesting Easter egg. And Sonic has now finished all 3 sections of the huge mess, and will be getting that key in the population. So this part of the game, you just go along using all the techniques that you've learned from the beginning of the temple, and just moving. Terra also finishing all 3 sections of the huge mess. Still very close to Sonic, only like good 40, maybe 30 seconds behind Sonic. Sonic also on that room doing a cool trick where you can bounce off the corner of a block and it gives you a ton of vertical and horizontal momentum when you're to do that. Also, that exists, which is cool. Now, the next screen after this one is where Resort gets really interesting for Sonic. Because Oshiro kind of gets mad a bit. So he tries to eat you like people do when they get mad. Yeah. But it's unfortunate. But we're speedrunners, so we can dodge him pretty good. And unless you do that, what he does is he locks onto your vertical position and will just charge at you. And if he hits you, you die. You can also jump on his head, which temporarily stunts him and gives you refreshes your dash and gives you a little boost. And you might see that in some moves. But, you know. And this is also a cool room for Sonic because I don't know, it just looks cool. Some things don't need to be necessarily complicated or really hard to do to look cool. I just think it looks cool, so I'm going to talk about it. There are also a few rooms into the Oshiro fight, and Sonic coming up at the end of it. Now, another interesting thing about Celeste is you actually see people die like a considerable amount in speedruns. Like Sonic had 5 deaths on Resort. That's because the game, the penalty for dying is really not that big because the respawn timer is only 1.5 seconds and people die a lot. So you don't necessarily be super careful like I can't die. Sometimes you just have to risk it and do risky strats because the punishment isn't as big as the reward of doing strats. And Sonic is now on stage 4, also known as Ridge, where the 2 main things are, well, 3 main things I guess, are there's wind, which does exactly what you'd think wind would do. There's these bubbles, which shoot you a small distance in the direction that you're pointing, and clouds, which basically kind of work as trampolines. There's also water, which is water. And that's another example of the spike jump that you just saw Sonic do, and here again. He can go above it if he wants. No one really cares. So, pretty close race between these two. And you'll see Sonic doing a little trick with the moving block there. I didn't explain moving blocks, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Where he did a reverse hyper dash against the block. And what that does is you can just dash back, hyper backwards into a block and then jump forward, and it does a very similar thing to hyper, but you can get a bit more momentum. So people use it in those situations in order to not have to wait through that stupid auto-scroller stage. But there's a few more of them that you can't skip quite as easily as mostly. Like this one, for example. Unless you're the task. If you're the task, you can jump around that block and jump up, but people don't really have frame perfect inputs unless you're PTH, but he doesn't really count as a person. So. And Sonic coming up to the end of that section, and on the next section, you'll be seeing these snowballs that come from the right side of the screen in just a couple spins. And they work similarly to Oshiro, where they lock onto your horizontal position and shoot at you, except they're a lot harder to dodge because they come from the right. So, they're really easy to get screwed over by. But Sonic not having any trouble so far. Don't want to jinx it though. And also, you can see Sonic is moving super, super fast, unironically, because his name is Sonic, through the bubbles, and that's because you can dash in order to not have to wait through the little loading time for the bubbles, which over the course of Bridge saves a lot of time doing that. And Sonic gets through fairly quickly. It's a nice time. He won that. Terra also coming up near the end of the first section of Bridge, as Sonic gets his start on Temple, which is my personal favorite stage of the game. A lot of people disagree, a lot of people agree, because of many difficulties located throughout. And the first thing you'll notice is there's these red bubbles, which work basically the same as the green bubbles, except they shoot you for an infinite amount of time. And also these kind of moving platforms, and they just move whenever you dash, and you can get a ton of momentum with them by basically hitting away from them whenever they hit you. So you see that in a couple rooms up ahead. And there's Dio, who has gotten stuck in a mirror for reasons that, again, I'm not going to explain because spoilers if anyone wants to play the game. But, you know. There, nearing the end of Bridge. If it doesn't get screwed over by a snowball. Makes it. Sonic opting not to go for double bubble skip, which is understandable because it's really difficult. There's another name for it, but I haven't been in the community for the past 3 weeks, so I don't know what it is. Sonic gets through the long room with pretty much no trouble, and he's coming up to the second section of Temple, which is it's a section. It has, well, you'll see, but the first thing you'll notice when he goes inside this mirror is that he's no longer playing as Madeline. He takes control over this creature known as a Seeker, and we'll be seeing a lot more of those very shortly. And he just has to beat himself, as people do sometimes. I'm not judging. And now we get to see Madeline again. And she says some stuff that we don't care about because we're speedrunners. And also Terra getting a start on Near Temple. Still really not that far behind Sonic. I think Sonic's PB was a 37.19 and Terra's was a 47.44. So might be seeing Terra PB by a lot if he continues to play well. And there you see the Seekers again. What they'll do is they lock onto you, but unlike the Snowballs and Oshiro, they don't only lock onto your Y position, they also lock on to your X position. And they'll shoot at you, and also they adjust based on what direction you're moving. Not as fast as you can, but it can lead to really annoying circumstances sometimes. But they can also get the switches from you, which allows for a lot of time saving if you can hit them and get them to fall in the direction that the key is, or just hit it when they attack you or something. They also work just like Oshiro, where if you bop them, they're stunned for momentary time, but they also have a little explosion when they come back, and that can be used to trigger switches, and also can propel you in the direction that it hits you from, if you're standing next to it. Yeah, my dog definitely likes Celeste. Either that or the dog that's barking at him from across the street. And Sonic just did a little skip that isn't quite such a little skip, because it saves about 3 or 4 minutes and is really the biggest skip of the entire game. Ironically, it's also one of the easiest skips to do. It just requires a reverse hyper. And you're able to get through. Terra coming up to the second section of Near Temple. Talking to Madeline. And then meet the Seekers in a few moments. And here is Dio again. And Dio in this part of the game, most people don't really like him because he's kind of completely useless because he's trapped inside this ice crystal, and you have to carry him around. The problem with carrying him around is that your movement speed is really not good when you're on the ground. But you're able to dash with the air and throw him and catch him and retain momentum. So people will do that in order to move like fairly quickly with him. But the section is still really hard to do because you have to do so many inputs in such a short period of time in order to maintain hold of the out. The Seeker is also trying to eat your faces. But another interesting about Theo is in his Ice Crystal is that you can actually throw him through these red crystal things, which you normally can't move through, and that allows you to make him go places easier than you normally would. So you'll see a lot of that, like right here, after he stops the super, where he'll throw it through there and then jump up. In final room of Knuckle Sonic. They're coming up to Dio in a couple rooms. Smacks that door. Postcards giving us some helpful advice that we can't outrun our own reflection, which is super funny because the level's name is Reflection. Yeah. No. But the first thing you'll notice is these feathers, which, well, you can see what they do. I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain it. You'll also see water, which does exactly what you would think that water would do. And I'm not going to explain that either. So basically what happens in this part of the game is you get to the summit, but Battlein gets mad at you and decides to punch you through the entire map because your mind can do that sometimes. And now you have to climb all the way back up, but apparently you take a different route or something because nothing's the same. So this area of the game is kind of more story-based, so you won't see a lot of strawberries or secrets. But the one thing that you will notice is alternate paths. In Reflection, there is basically, for every room, there's 2 different rooms that you could take. But as speedrunners, we just want to go to the fastest one, so a lot of people don't even really know what's in the other one, because they played the game once and then never looked at those rooms then. And you also see these bumpers that basically work as bumpers, where if you hit them, they propel you in the direction that you hit them from. Kind of like pinball, but less fun and more annoying. Some people actually choose to go the top route on that room. Or, nah, I don't think so. One of them. But, what do I know? I haven't run the game in 2 months. Sonic able to go around that Kevin block. They're kind of known to the community as Kevin blocks, based off of the man, the myth, the legend that created the sound effect from them. But they're technically known as crush blocks, and what they do is if you hit them from the side, they'll move extremely fast in that direction and crush things, as the name suggests. And Sonic coming up at the end of the first section of Reflection, talking to the old lady that is here somehow. and soon he will be entering the wonderful part of reflection known as battle and fight, where you fight battle and opting not to go do the intended shortcut there. I don't know if he did that on purpose or just went the wrong way and went with it. They're doing neutral jumps to get up there. We'll see if Sonic does shenanigans here. Opting to play it safe. You can do some really weird things with dashing in that block, but Sonic not wanting to risk dying, and he's on a really good pace right now, so maybe thinking about getting a good time as well as winning this. Terra is still also having a really good race. It'd be nice if we could PB. So, Sonic is at the battle and fight, where your objective is to bop battle in as many times as possible as she shoots lasers and fireballs, I guess, at you. And each room has a different specific pattern for the fireballs and lasers, and you just have to dodge them and hit her, basically. And then she'll move along the room. It's a really fun boss fight, but it can also be really annoying. Cycles, because if you miss a cycle, you're kind of screwed. You can see there's a lot of really tall rooms where you hit her and then you fall down, and then you hit her again, fall down, and then you hit her again. It's a vicious cycle. But this entire game does a really good job of taking elements from within the level and using them in like different ways. Every room feels different, even though they use the same elements, but they just combine them in different ways that makes it feel really fun and unique, and I think this boss fight does a really good job of that. Sonic not having any trouble with it all, through. And Terra is going to come up to it in a couple minutes. Battle and telling us we're on a mountain climber. We all know the answer to that. Sonic having a bit of trouble with this one. Actually having a lot of trouble with this one. Opting to just play safe and go above. He's just got a couple rooms left of the second part of the battle and fight. There's only two, and then there's the biggest section of the game, Summit. Also, to many, the hardest. Kind of depends. Just a matter of opinion. Terra has started the battle and fight on his screen. I'm at a really good time for him. Hope he PBs. Sonic on the last room of the battle, right? Here's it without a problem. Besides that one room, that was a pretty good reflection. But that one room kind of ruined it. And now he has leveled up for, again, spoilery reasons. And now you can see Madeline's here is pink when she hasn't used any of her dashes. And that means that she can now dash 2 times in midair. It's kind of like real life, where if you really make peace with your mind, you're able to jump in midair, except it's not like real life at all because you can't do that. Great metaphor. And now Sonic is entering summits. And the thing with Summit is there are a bunch of different sections, which each represent a point in the game, except the first one, which, I mean, I guess you could kind of say it resembles Reflection, but I think it's kind of just its own thing. But each different section of Summit is based off of a level from earlier in the game, kind of because you're climbing back up the mountain after you've fallen off. And it uses all of the elements from earlier in the game and combines them in, again, like new and really unique ways that make the game interesting, even though you're basically doing the same thing. It's also by far the longest section of the game. It'll probably take Sonic, I don't know, between 10 and 12 minutes. Whereas most of the other levels are like between 1 and 7. I don't know. There's a large variety in lengths of levels. But he is now in the 500 meter section, which obviously resembles City, but it also basically takes everything that you've seen in City and makes it a lot more challenging and unique. Yeah. Accidentally grabbing the side of that block there, has to wait for it to come back down, and then messes up the jump. It's unfortunate. Cost quite a few seconds of. And now you see that's the Battling Orb, or Battling. It's a Battling Orb, I don't know what else it would be. But what you do is you have to get over to Battling, and she'll shoot you up a little ways in the air, and then you just have to move between all the Battling Orbs until you get to the last one at the top of the level. And that lets you propel on to the next section of Summit. And this one, the 1000 meter section, is based off of Old Site. And you can see the dream blocks are back, switches are back, everything from Old Site is back basically. And again, it just takes all the elements from earlier in the game and reuses them. Now you might actually see at some point Sonic try to hyper out of a green block, which you can use to feel like even more momentum than just simply jumping out, but I haven't seen him do it, so that's a technique that isn't taught to you in the game, but people kind of figure things out. They are also getting a start on Summit. Still really not far behind. If he gets better than a 17-minute Summit, he's gonna PB. Actually, I think it's like less than an 18-minute Summit and he's gonna PB. So I don't want to jinx anything, but it really looks like he's gonna set a record for himself. Many people think that the resort-style part of Summit is the hardest section of the game, and it's really easy to see why, because you've got all these super fast cycles with the customs, a lot of really hard techniques that people do in like turns like these, and it can be really challenging for both amateur and like skilled speedrunners. So see everybody struggle at it once in a while. They're on the Forsaken City South section. That's an important of Summit. Having a bit of trouble with that one. There you go. And Sonic onto the Ridgetown section. And this is actually kind of an intended shortcut right here, because you normally go that way to get a strawberry, but it's actually faster, so people do it anyways and gotta get that strawberry. So it doesn't have Oshiro, but it does have snowballs. So, I mean, I guess pick your poison. Some people don't like Oshiro, some people don't like snowballs. It really depends on the player and their play style. what your safe practice. There's a skip you can do there in order to really progress through that auto scroll room a lot faster, but Sonic's not doing it. It's nice to play things safe in tournaments because I mean, everybody's seeing what you're doing, more people than usual, and you kind of want to get a good time. So sometimes you play stuff safe, but you normally would take a risk. There, in the middle of both side, south side. And they're both coming up to the end of their sections, and Sonic is now moving on to near tunnel, south section of something, 2,500 meters. And this is a really interesting section. Oh, you actually did a corner boost off of that block. There is 3 pixels on each spike thing, where you can jump off of it and get like a really big boost from jumping off the corner of it. And he did that there and was able to. I don't know if that was faster, but he did it. Now, this is a really hard trick. It's just doing spike jumps, but kind of difficult. That's difficult. Terra getting through the difficult room of resort side section. And we'll see if he does door skip. Oh look, he's doing it! Amazing! Everyone wants door skip. Door skip is a skip that kind of overtook the community by storm for reasons that no one has any idea. And apparently, according to everyone, it's not a valid run if it doesn't have door skip. Obviously not true, but you know, it's fun to poke fun at people that don't do door skip, I guess. One of the many wonderful Celeste memes created by our terrible yet amazing community. Sonic also dying at like the very end of that room. That was unfortunate. Now he's at the final section, which instead of having separate rooms has these checkpoints counting down to 30. And if you die, you respawn at the last checkpoint. But you'll see he actually will probably skip a lot of the flags, and that's because we're speedrunners and we don't going out of the way to get things that take more time. But a lot of the skipping flags can be really risky because if you die, you have to go back further than if you had gotten the flag. So it's a really big risk versus reward system that you have to do in order to figure out which flags you want to hit. Made it to 20. I think that's 20. It's hard to read the numbers. Terra coming up at the end of Ridge South section. And also, you'll notice with this last section of Summit that there's vertical wind that goes upwards and downwards. It works the exact same as horizontal wind, where it just pushes you in that direction. But so with the vertical wind, you're a lot more floaty and it takes a lot longer to fall. So you'll see people holding down and fast falling, which allows them to fall fast. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. But you see that everywhere in the game, but it's really prevalent here because of the long time you spend falling every time you have to fall. Isn't that either? If you die on that that checkpoint, it's really devastating because that's probably the longest one. Nice to meet you around that. That's an example of a checkpoint where people usually skip it because it's really out of the way, and the section after it isn't too risky. Same with that one, except that one more so. Almost to the final section. Yeah, Terra is playing way better than his PB. I don't know if he just hasn't submitted one in a while, or if he's just playing out of his mind, but either way, it's impressive. That's an unfortunate death there on some. Definitely not going to PB, but, you know, still a good run out of some, unless he keeps on doing that. Sometimes it gets stressful coming up at the end of the game, and people will mess up in ways that they wouldn't believe that they could possibly mess up. On flag 3 now. Also, Terra starting the 3,000 meter section. I don't know if Sonic's just panicking or what, but just gotta take it slow, get through it, and then go through that. Celeste is such a momentum-based game, really. Like, if you mess up, you're going to continue to mess up until you just have to finish or reset your run. Because there's no such thing as just dying once in a really stupid way and not remembering that and having it affect the rest of your gameplay. And Sonic finishing with a time of 39:13. So now we'll shift focus to Terra. And he's actually already on the upward wind section. Oh, that's really unfortunate. That's such a long checkpoint too, but dying there really loses you a lot of time. On the checkpoint 12. Hoping not to go to the neutral. It's a really difficult technique to pull off side up, but I'm thinking that. I apologize for my dog. And now going on to the final section with no upward or downward wind on the checkpoint 5. Or is that 6? I don't know. It's unfortunate that. Sonic, do you want to do an interview after Terra's done? No. On the checkpoint 2. Alright, that's fine. There, final flag coming up at the end. It's going to be a giant PB. I'm assuming that he just hasn't uploaded his PB to the leaderboards, but if he had, then that's a 5-minute PB. But, you know, also a really nice summit for me. Good game, hopefully. Terra, if you want to do an interview, it's fine. Or, no, okay. Sonic may have won in time, but Terra won for the most strawberries, so we all know that that really matters, and that he obviously won this race. Alright, so neither of our runners are going to do an interview, so I guess that's it for this. Our next race is going to be at well, there's one at 9:30 on Speed Gaming 4, and that's going to be between Mention and YP. There might be another one at 9, don't know yet, but that'll be really interesting as YP is one of the best runners in this game. So make sure to check that out if you have time. I've been Florp, and thanks for watching.